1, 2, 3.
Welcome to Arts and Leisure on the HAN Network. This is our weekly program featuring everything that is coming up in the area's music, arts, and entertainment scene. We will interview local artists, authors, musicians, and even some nationally recognized names who may be performing here in our area. We will have movie reviews and film suggestions from the real dad, Mark Schumann, and etiquette tips from Catherine Michaels. This is your all-access pass, and here are your hosts, Arts and Leisure editor Sally Sanders and our entertainment reporter Steve Coulter.
Welcome to Arts and Leisure on the HAN Network. I'm Steve Coulter. On the couch with me is arts editor Sally Sanders. We've got a great show for you today. We're talking about OJ Made in America, the documentary that's premiering next week on ABC, and that'll run on ESPN. And then we're also talking about Anthony Weiner, a documentary that Mark got to review in this week's art section. We're also going to talk about our favorite summer places to go in Connecticut as the weather is starting to turn for the better.
We hope.
Before we get into those segments, we're going to talk about a little film that I got to see on Sunday afternoon called The Lobster, starring Colin Farrell, which is just quite a ride. It's a wild sci-fi romance set in this dystopic kind of future but present, and it's a great film. I really enjoyed it.
So Colin Farrell is going into a situation that nobody could quite conceive of.
Yeah, so it's very not in this world, but at the same time, kind of it relates to a lot of the themes that we see in modern day society. So what happens is if you're a single person in this world, you go to this resort to find a pair, and you have 45 days to find somebody to get into a relationship with, or you're converted into an animal of your choosing, and he chooses a lobster.
I saw the trailer to it, and he arrives with his brother.
His brother's a dog, right? The movie is very funny. Like it's dark humor, but like throughout it, John C. Reilly is a hoot. Ben Whishaw, who's from James Bond, he plays Q. He's brilliant in this, and then Rachel Weisz, who comes along later in the kind of back half of the movie, is also incredibly funny. The movie it's a comedy, it's a drama, it's a romance. It's got all the great elements of movie making. The cinematography is phenomenal. The music's great. The director, Yorgos Lanthimos, is Greek. This is his third film, his first English language film.
Did he write it also, or who wrote it?
He did write it, directed, and he got Colin Farrell to look very large. I don't know, the image was pulled up of him at the pool. He's got a gut. You think Colin Farrell, you think he's an action star.
Guy,
And the reason why we're talking about Colin Farrell is we're doing kind of career revivals today here on the couch, and he has really revived himself because he was Daredevil, Total Recall, Minority Report in the early 2000s, and here he is now with a belly and a mustache, a caterpillar mustache, trying to kind of figure out love in this place. And the film really posits the question: is it better to be alone and completely free, or is it better to self-sacrifice a little bit to kind of meet somebody and fall in love? And so that's really the big question.
So that's the choice he has to make in 45 days.
Right, and so his time is coming to an end at the resort, and he's facing this to become a lobster type thing, and then he runs away. There's this other group in the woods called the Loners, and they give you total freedom to do whatever you want. There's no time element. They're kind of opposing this society of, this Kafka-esque society of transformation, and so he chooses to go live in the woods with the Loners, and that's where he finds Rachel Weisz's character. But you're not allowed to fall in love if you're a loner. So that's the crux of the situation. So they prohibit any kissing, they dance alone. They make them play music and dance alone. They can't dance with each other.
And what will happen in this society if you break the rules?
And they break the rules, and you get mutilated.
Oh.
So he's stuck between a rock and a hard place. Do
you want to be a lobster or...
exactly. And so the resort or the loners in the woods, and that's kind of the dichotomy of this futuristic dystopic society.
I can't wait to see this is on my list now.
It's a real hoot. It's great, and he's wonderful in it. I think he might be able to contend for an acting award, but it came out at maybe the wrong time.
Too early?
So we'll see. I'm going to be rooting for him, but... this isn't the first time he's revived his career. He was great in Bruges, and that's really...
That's one of my favorites.
That was the turning point of his career, because we mentioned the early 2000s part where he was partying hard and doing a lot of drinking and drugging, and now he's really found himself in this dark comedy. He was in Seven Psychopaths a few years back, and he's got
the charm, too. I mean, it just flows from him.
He's so great. The little nuances that he does, one of the resort employees comes in to try to sexually stimulate him. Because they said it's better for, to meet another person if he's stimulated. And then she leaves and he's just like, this is a disaster. And the way he delivers his line is just so great. And it's just a great performance and a really fun ride. And it's this idea kind of loneliness and isolation and self-preservation and very much to do with an acting career, I think, that we see actors kind of deal with.
They do, and when you start talking about people who've had a great beginning career and then tanked and
it's
then
hard,
come back, a lot of them it's alcohol, it's drugs that's interfered, and of course one of the major names there is Robert Downey Jr.
He's the
who
top.
really very publicly just crashed and burned.
Yep.
Not once but several times.
I'm glad you mentioned Robert Downey Jr. because there are 3 categories that I came up with being marked this week. And the main one is fundamental. There is no other alternative for the role of Tony Stark. It has to be Robert Downey Jr.
He is no so other perfect. Yeah.
Insert any other actor, and the movie fails. I don't even think there's a second or a third one. He's so born to play that role. He's fundamental. That's really what it comes down to.
Okay.
And then the other 2 ones are fresh, because you haven't seen him in a while. I don't think Robert Downey hadn't been in a movie in a couple of years.
Yeah.
He was good in Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, but other than that, it was just he had really kind of fallen off since the mid-'90s. And then the third one is a fish out of water. You get kind of the element of being in unfamiliar territory, and you see that with Colin Farrell in this Lobster movie. This is not an action movie, This is a lot of just him sitting around kind of sulking and, looking out at the ocean and thinking about, am I going to become a lobster or...
Not so much with the guns, yeah.
Exactly. And so again, with Robert Downey, it's kind of a fresh element. He had never been a superhero before, and now I can't think of a superhero, an actor who's better to play a superhero than him.
He has a twinkle about him that works very well in a lot of things. Tropic Thunder was another one I thought of with him, which was just...
Again, fish out of water. It's just what a character to play.
Except that he always plays with that self-awareness, and that was kind of what was going on with the
I love the line
divas.
where he's just I don't have a cell phone.
Yeah.
I'm 1970s from head to toe. The other real one that I had on my list was John Travolta in Pulp Fiction. So when you hear career revival, you think of Travolta was such a big star in the 70s with Grease and Saturday Night Fever, and then in the 80s just really dropped off, and then he came back with this just iconic performance as Vincent Vega in this movie that just really changed the game of cinema with Quentin Tarantino. And there he is dancing with Uma Thurman, and probably one of the most iconic
that's the best
sequences in film history, and just a great piece of acting. And time and time again with these career revival pieces, and you saw it with Michael Keaton a few years ago with Birdman, is that it always results in the nomination but rarely gets you the win.
Yeah.
And the one guy who did get the victory was 3 years ago. I believe you had him on your list. Matthew McConaughey.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I was like, wait, who did I have?
Oh, yeah. Well, there's so many names.
Yeah.
Well, and that was a real transformation, too,
Right.
and a real fish out of water. I mean,
he goes from making How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days and Fool's Gold.
Rom-coms and being the stud
to carrying a movie and having the physical transformation.
Yeah. I mean, I'm amazed at actors who do that physical transformation, especially the weight loss things that they do. It's pretty. I mean, they're really putting their bodies through something that most people would not agree to do.
And it's weird because it's at the same time, he's hurting his body by getting himself as thin as we just saw in that image.
Yeah.
But in a way, it's a self-preservation for his career, because if he doesn't do that, he's still doing the rom-coms, and at some point, he's not going to get cast in those rom-coms because there's only so many you can do. So the revival for him has put him in this whole new light of movies. He's doing dramas, he's doing actions. He's got one coming out in a couple weeks about slavery and the Civil War.
Yeah.
And it's a whole new world for him because he chose to do that role in Dallas Buyers Club as well as Mud.
Yeah. Well, he also was doing some things.
He was also in Tropic Thunder too.
Yes. He was in Bernie. He was in Great Fun in Bernie and Killer Joe. But he was taking smaller parts to kind of feel his way at a certain point, and then kaboom.
The transformation.
Yeah.
He became the opposite of a lobster. A big, beautiful movie star.
Yeah.
Who else do you have on your list?
Well, one that I thought was very interesting was Diane Lane. who I have always admired. I think she's one of the most beautiful actresses there is. And she was a child star. She appeared opposite Laurence Olivier when she was 13, and
Right.
he said she was going to be the next Grace Kelly. Which,
And then we didn't see her for a while.
well, she was in Rumblefish and The Outsiders, and
Oh, that's right. She was in The Outsiders.
yeah, and then she had a bunch of movies that just didn't go anywhere and were pretty well panned. But then she did A Walk on the Moon, which was
She comes back. And again,
fantastic.
fresh, right?
Fresh.
Yeah.
Well, also, what she had done too was go to TV. She did the Lonesome
But you see a lot
Dove.
of more people do these
Yeah.
days when
That's
their
a good way to
careers are
revive your
petering off.
career.
And yeah, for film in the 21st century, you go to TV.
Yeah, because no one was going to pick her for a Western, I don't think. But she was gorgeous in that and did a great job in Lonesome Dove, and then she came back with a lot of indie movies.
Yeah, she's been nominated, I think, for an Academy Award.
I'm not sure, and then she did, a big tentpole movie, The Perfect Storm, with
Right.
George Clooney, and she was super tough in that.
Right. Yeah, she's the love interest of Mark Wahlberg.
But with women do you say women actors? With women who are in the acting profession,
It's harder to get a
it's
career revival.
harder.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that.
It's harder because she's, I think, 49 now.
Yep.
So she's now getting those mature woman parts already, and she's still.
When it drops off, it's definitely harder to climb back up.
Yeah,
If you're an
yeah.
actress as opposed to an actor.
Yeah.
Because
it
the
is.
parts are going to younger actresses who can fill the younger void, and we've talked about that feminism in Hollywood.
Yeah.
It's definitely tough to do. I'm glad you mentioned Diane Lane.
Yeah.
One for me would be mention Michael Keaton in Birdman, Marlon Brando in The Godfather.
Oh, that's classic.
Because people tend to forget he was such a star in the 50s,
Mm-hmm.
but his 60s were really rough, especially the early 60s. And then again, fish out of water element, he's playing a character who's much older than he was in the movie. A lot of people think, they think The Godfather, they think Don Vito is, the actor who's playing him is 70, but Brando was really only 43 at the time.
I'd forgotten he was that young.
So he put on a lot of makeup, and he was this was a mature role for him, His most iconic roles before that were these, young greaser kind of types,
Yeah.
thugs.
Motorcycle jacket,
yeah, a lot of
hat, yeah.
machismo, and
Yeah.
this is a subtle role where he's in power, and he's not, opposed to his son Sonny. He's not a hothead, which the young Brando or the previous Brando
He could have been
fans were
Sonny,
familiar
yeah.
with. Yeah, he could have very well been Sonny. Yeah, and so this
Yeah.
was a very kind of a career revival for him, and I think it directed him into the later part of his career and gave him kind of a.
It also
a
showed
balance.
what a good actor he was.
Yes.
That he could
He
control
could
his
do
performances.
Streetcar
in that
Named
way.
Desire, and he could do The Godfather. It's
Yeah.
two very opposing roles. Who else did you have in your list? I
Well,
think you have a director.
I'm actually gonna go with another woman, just
All right.
because I think they get underrepresented.
Of course. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Diane Lane. She's great.
Drew Barrymore.
Mm-hmm.
Gertie in E.T., she was just adorable. She was the cutest little girl ever. And from this acting family and so much history
There
with
she
her.
is.
Yeah, Gertie. But drugs and alcohol
Yep.
took her down.
Young
and,
fame.
yeah, and she came back with a lot of romantic comedies, but I guess the first one that really brought her back was Poison Ivy, which was definitely not a romantic comedy.
Yeah, in Batman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then she did a lot of variety. Charlie's Angels, Whip It, Grey Gardens. She was great in. That was a TV movie.
Joe's screaming that we should mention Donnie Darko. She was also
Donnie
in that.
Darko,
Yeah, but
yes.
she had a nice career revival there at the end of the 90s.
Yeah,
And that set
yeah.
her up for.
And she's sort of picking and choosing what she wants to do now. I think she's got another film coming out with Adam Sandler.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They've become a duo. I think they've done 4 movies together.
Yeah, but I think it's nice that you see a little girl grow up and continue her career and sort of get her life together
Right.
and she's a smart woman now and
Yeah,
and
she's
very
very
successful.
very influential.
Yeah.
One more before we head out. Ben Affleck. I think he's on both of our lists.
Yes, he is.
He went from Gigli, which we were talking about
Oh,
before this segment, and he did a lot
Well, he
of.
started. Give him credit. He started with Good Will Hunting.
You're right.
You know,
Right. He
he
won
won
an
an
Oscar, then he dropped off, and now he's winning Oscars again. Argo, The Town. He's a very influential director. He's coming out with The Accountant later this year.
Yeah.
And then he's got another one up in Boston that they were filming near my sister's apartment, actually. That's coming to
Oh, is
come
it
out
another
next
Dennis
year.
Lehane?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, those are good.
but
He does very well with them.
I mean, this guy's all over. He's had the career revival, not only as an actor, but also as a filmmaker. He's one of the more respected directors out there right now. It's pretty impressive. And when we mention the career revival, we should mention that there are actors who have had career reinventions, like Jim Carrey we were talking about in Truman Show, and Liam Neeson with Taken. He kind of becomes the action hero after doing all the...
Very unexpected.
Yeah, after doing all the dramas in the 90s, he becomes this action guy. And there's Philip Seymour Hoffman. He did Along Came Polly, which was a comedy after he was a drama. But those guys were all very good actors and very relevant.
And
this is a list of
This
is a list of when you think of John Travolta and Robert Downey Jr., Colin Farrell. These are people that had kind of gone away from the spotlight and then came back into our lives as mature actors and have delivered great performances.
Yes, really
in
good
those roles,
actors.
ones that we'll always remember. And that's a good enough place to end this discussion. When we come back on the couch, we're going to talk about some very rich and powerful people who made bad decisions, and now they're in documentaries. O.J. Simpson, Anthony Weiner. After the break, we're going to talk about those two documentaries.
Walter Stewart's Market in New Canaan is your time-saving local shopping destination for the best of spring. Find many of your favorite products, from great specials on everyday items to the freshest organic produce, artisanal cheeses, and grass-fed steaks. Drop off your knives to be sharpened, grab a beautiful bouquet of spring flowers, and stop in next door for a wine tasting. Plus, their personable staff is always ready to lend a helping hand. So stop in to Walter Stewart's Market, 229 Elm Street today, or shop online at stewartsmarket.com.
Mosquitoes, ticks, gone. Guaranteed. That's what Mosquito Squad guarantees as America's most trusted mosquito and tick control company. Locally owned and operated, over 90,000 homes have been protected by Mosquito Squad using their dual protection method for season-long protection, which includes barrier spray service for eliminating mosquitoes and adult ticks, as well as supplemental programs to increase tick control. They use only USDA organic options, which are safe and non-toxic. Contact them today at www.squadctny.com or 203-893-4309. Mosquito Squad. No bugs, no bites, no kidding.
Connecticut is coming back to hometown banking, to a partner that makes small businesses feel big, where community comes first, where you get the know-how only neighbors can deliver, where saving time is important too. It's time to expect more. It's time to bank well. Bank smart. Bank local. Bank well. With the 24-month Bank Well Smart CD, you can earn 1.35% APY and raise your rate and add to your CD.
You're watching the HAN Network, and you're not alone. Nearly 1 million people have watched our live sports, news, and entertainment programming since the network launched in August 2015. Advertise on the network that reaches Fairfield County, Connecticut's most engaged audience. Contact Advertising Director Jessica Murrin at 203-273-7312 or email jessica@han.network.
Welcome back to the HAN Network. Steve Coulter, Sally Sanders here to talk about two documentaries. One that's already on demand, Weiner, which came out, and Mark, our real dad, got to review it. He had some very positive things to say. It's kind of a comedy documentary, or...
Well, it's a depressingly funny documentary.
And so it follows him 2013 trying to become the mayor of New York, correct?
Yeah, well, it starts there,
With
but
the
it sort of
sexting
backtracks
scandal.
with the previous sexting scandal when he was sending out, and
people do forget there were two.
Yes, there were. When he resigned from Congress on the first one, and
that was 2009 or 2011,
something like that. It was a couple of years.
He didn't learn his lesson.
Yeah, and it didn't take him long to think that he could just
get
everyone to accept him as this reformed guy with the lovely wife and the new baby.
She's still with him.
I know. Yes.
Shocking.
Huma Abedin is his wife, and also high-ranking official with Hillary Clinton in the State Department. She was, and now works with her, I guess, on her campaign. But Anthony Weiner his staffs had never met a camera that he didn't love. So
he let these two filmmakers into his life.
Documentarians into his life, one of whom had, I think, worked for him in a previous job. So they followed him around, and he was campaigning for mayor of New York, but oops, he did it again. And
he only ended up getting like 1% of the vote or something, right?
But he still thought he could do it.
Right, he forged
of the
ahead
film
even though he got in trouble again.
Yeah, I have to
God
quote
bless
Mark
him.
here. Mark said, "This fascinating film uses the camera to capture the moments of triumph, of disgrace from inside Weiner's home, office, and ego." And I think that says it all.
Yeah, he is an egomaniac.
And it's kind of sad that The Good Wife is ended, because there's a scene in the documentary with whom Abaddon standing next to Anthony as he's explaining himself on the second oops, and the pain in her face, you can't. I mean,
you can't make it up.
You couldn't act it
right.
as well as real life showed, but also there's a lot of behind the scenes, the two of them discussing the campaign and really just hard-edged political reasoning in this film, as well as
this one's really about politics as well as media and some technology aspects in there, I'm sure, with the whole sexting element that people are unfamiliar with.
Yeah, but
or an older audience is unfamiliar.
But just an example of a politician's ego that can't believe that he can't convince people that he's really the man for the job,
right? Even
with these little side issues.
And that's what makes him such a fascinating character.
Yeah, and O.J. is a fascinating character.
The truth is truly stranger than fiction in both of these situations. And O.J. Made in America premiered earlier this year in Utah at Sundance, and then I was lucky enough to catch a preview of it at Tribeca Film Festival in April. It was a 5-part, 8-hour experience that included 2 breaks.
Wow.
Yeah, and I was.
Did you sit through the whole thing?
Sat through the whole thing. I went to just watch one, and then I got glued in, watched the second one, and then at some point I had a turning in my, I was just like, I'm just going to watch the whole thing because I'm not going to be, I can't wait till June to finish this series.
Yeah.
And so it premieres on ABC next Saturday, June 11th, and then it will run on ESPN, and it's from ESPN's 30 for 30 documentary series, which started in 2009, and it was 30 documentaries about the 30 years that ESPN had been in business, covering sports and kind of the way that sports has interacted with history in that last 30 years.
I was reading a little review of this before we went on the air, and the person who was talking about the O.J. documentary said that one of the documentarians at ESPN, his whole point was to tell a story, and that this was just classic storytelling.
Yeah, it's very straightforward. There's nothing too different that he does. He's not like, this isn't like Birdman. He's not trying to pull any tricks on you. It's very straight and to the point. It opens up in L.A. 1930s, 1940s, and talks about the race issues that have been embedded in that city for almost 100 years now. And that is kind of where the ball gets rolling, and it just avalanches, and it just keeps building up until O.J. arrives in 1967 at USC, and he becomes a star. He wins he wins the Heisman Trophy. He becomes bigger than color, I think, is one of the lines. So he transcends the fact that he's an African American male in this, city that is very
racially divided.
divided. With the police force, there's several incidences. Eula Love, the Watts riots, Rodney King. They go into all the history, and when I walked out of the theater, my instant review of it was that this was a character study on Los Angeles, not a character study on O.J. Simpson. Yeah, and in a larger sense, it's a character study on us as Americans. And there was this sense that the director Ezra Edelman, who was creating that we kind of built O.J. up into this pop culture icon, and he really was the first of that kind of class. He was an athlete and a star. And now you see that
jumping over suitcases in the airport.
Exactly. They do that. They do the 30 or 35 minutes about how he's an advertising darling, and They have the Hertz CEO, how he loved OJ, and then like how he was just so heartbroken after the murders. And of course, the murder and the murder trial plays into it. The third and fourth part are very much about the domestic violence and the cover-ups leading up to the murders.
Well,
and how
this is ESPN, so sports, I'm assuming, is a big part of this too, and,
Right.
and as a factor in his life. And
This is very unique, though, because all of their previous 30 for 30s are standalone projects. They've never done anything that's 5 parts. It's always just a one-hitter. For example, they actually have done OJ before. They had a documentary that premiered 5 years ago called June 17th, 1994, and that was about the day that he had the white Bronco chase. Yeah, but on that day there was Arnold Palmer had his final golfing performance. The Rangers were playing the Stanley Cup, and then because of OJ's white Bronco, the NBA Finals were blacked out, and the ABC News cut to the Bronco chase over basketball. So that was the first documentary, the first time that ESPN had kind of dived into this subject. And now, 5 years later, you see OJ is back in the news all the time because
yes.
FX did the mini-series, American Crime Story, The People versus O.J. Simpson, which was a fictionalized version of the murder trial. And now ESPN's back in the business of OJ, doing this 5-part mini-series, which is, again, not really just about OJ. It's about the city, and it's about race and sports and fame and
it sounds
everything.
like something that's going to be rerun and appreciated for
I think it
while.
could definitely win a few awards too
Yeah.
next year. I mean, it's a long documentary, so I don't know how that figures into if it could win Best Documentary at the Oscars because it's so long. But it's
Will
470
it be
minutes.
considered for the Oscars though if it's running as a television?
That I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
But
I
it
don't
ran
know.
as a whole unit
That's
at
right,
these
it
at these
did.
film circles, so it's
Yeah.
running as like a documentary or as a film would.
And we were talking earlier that there's another documentary coming out.
Yeah, in case you didn't get your full fill of
yeah,
OJ.
not
with
this
the-
year, but next year, I think. And it's
Right. Martin Sheen is producing and narrating it.
And it sets out to prove that
OJ's innocent.
Yeah.
Right, which is very controversial because after watching this, I walked away
You would say no
100% convinced. Well, in the 5th part, they have his agent, and his agent says, OJ had admitted to being at the crime scene, to going to Nicole's house, and that he told his agent that he didn't have the weapon. She had the weapon, and he somehow took it away from her and then ended up stabbing them like 20 times. But
Yeah, as well as
as
her
self-defense,
companion.
as self-defense, he stabbed them a bunch of times, and they show the images in the documentary. So people that don't like blood turn away around. I think it's the 4th part where they show
Wow.
like the murder scenes. But going back to the Martin Sheen one, sorry, we're bouncing all over here. This is about a Texas detective who I think his name is William Deere, who's been on the case now for 20 years. He wrote a book, and supposedly
He's
he's
obsessed, yes.
Yeah, and now he has an alternative theory as to what happened out there. I guess I can't say I'm not going to watch it because I'm intrigued as to what his theory might be, but just put it bluntly, I think he's wrong.
Well, as I said, I think the attachment of Martin Sheen to it gives it kind of a little more weight than
yeah, if it was just some random
just
guy.
the random
Yeah.
Texas detective. It suggests to me that he must have had something convincing to also to get the money behind it.
Yeah. Well, people are obsessed with OJ, and this will be a 6-part miniseries. It's going to be on Investigation Discovery next year. The title of it's Hard Evidence, OJ is Innocent. So that'll be, there's OJ Made in America, there's OJ is Innocent, and there's the People versus OJ. People versus OJ is the fictional that was on FX. I know it's hard to keep track of this. This guy, look at this egomaniac and his smile.
Beautiful smile.
Yeah.
Beautiful smile.
But yeah, I can't thank the Tribeca film people enough for allowing me to watch it. It was a great experience, and
Yeah.
I walked out of it like I had
Dazed. You must have been-
whiplash.
yes.
Yeah, and then the 5th part of it is just like this screwball comedy of a disastrous, heist in Las Vegas. So that's where he gets finally arrested.
And another example of a giant ego thinking that
Oh my God,
he
yeah.
can do anything.
He thought he
and-
could just do whatever he wants. He never thought. They had interviewed the guy who walked into the hotel room because he assembles this team of thugs, these random guys. It's so ridiculous that it's funny. And so this guy walks in with a gun, and he was the one that was going to face the charges. And then they cut to the documentarian cuts to him. And he's like, "I'm not going to go to jail for no O.J. Simpson. I don't know this guy." And so basically, he turned against O.J. and O.J.'s now in jail in Las Vegas, but he's up for parole next year. So
Well, good.
this is not going away. Basically, is what we're saying. And again, this premieres next Saturday. ABC, OJ Made in America. Highly recommend it. We're going to come back after our next break with some summer destinations, some light fun after talking about
Yeah,
OJ
well,
Simpson and
summer
Anthony
is
Weiner.
here.
All right, we'll be back after the commercial break.
For more than 50 years, Triple S has been Fairfield County's expert service for carpet, upholstery, and drapery cleaning. We provide the best in repairs and in-depth restoration, understanding fabrics and how to properly clean and restore them. Our staff will come to your home to clean your wall-to-wall carpet to perfection. We can also pick up your fine carpets and bring them to our facilities. With locations in Norwalk, Stamford, and Stratford, Triple S will get the job done fast, big or small. At Triple S, you can count on our people as well as our cleaning. Find us at triplesclean.com or 203-847-8000. Have a sports injury or a slip and fall that needs immediate care? Coastal Ortho Express Urgent Care gives you direct access to an orthopedic specialist fast, without an appointment. Biking, golf, tennis, soccer, whatever the sports injury is, sprain or fracture, Coastal Ortho Express can help. Coastal Ortho Express Urgent Care, open Monday through Saturday, now in 2 locations. The iPark building at 761 Main Avenue in Norwalk and 36 Old Kings Highway South in Darien. Or go to coastalorthoexpress.com, like them on Facebook. At the Language School in Ridgefield, we teach practical language for real life, tailored to your professional needs or those of your children. Offering more than a dozen languages, the school specializes in creating customized classes for businesses, government agencies, and healthcare professionals in Fairfield and Westchester counties. Native speakers from around the world will instruct students of all ages in the language and the culture using a hands-on method. Find out more about what makes us different at thelanguageschoolglobal.com or call us at 203-241-7010.
I'm Denise DiGregoli, the host of The Drive on the HAN Network. Join me Tuesdays for some motivational, intelligent talk with a little humor as we visit with people who live their lives mindfully. Tune in to The Drive live on Tuesdays, 12:30, here on the HAN Network.
I'm Kate Chaplinsky. Join us for Coffee Break, weekdays at 11 to get the latest Connecticut news, weather, high school sports, and more. News doesn't get any more local than on Coffee Break on the HAN Network.
Before the weekend begins, we're going to give you some destinations to hit up this summer. Connecticut's got a lot of great nature, a lot of great museums. There's a lot of fun destinations. You can start going to them, as soon as Saturday, because the weather is nice and it's time to celebrate the fact that winter's behind us and the temperatures are warm and
It
plenty to
seemed
do in
like
this
summer
area.
just arrived.
Yes.
I mean, I in the past couple of weeks, it's just all of a sudden summer's here and school ought to be out soon.
It's coming. It's
Yeah.
2 weeks, less than 2 weeks. So what's one place you'd recommend?
Well,
to
one
people?
place I'd recommend, lots of fun, is Sheffield Island, which is off
Gorgeous.
Norwalk. There are ferries that go out there from the Norwalk Seaport Association dock, which is on North Water Street in South Norwalk, and they're going now 2 or 3 times a week. They have some evening cruises, which is fun.
Oh, nice.
I would say take the kids during the daytime, maybe have a romantic cruise in the evening.
At the evening, yeah.
Yeah, and if you want information on that, you can visit norwalkseaport.org, and all the schedules are there and the prices.
So you're good. You prepared the information. I just wrote a list of stuff down.
Oh.
My main recommendation was Kent Falls.
Oh.
Beautiful.
Beautiful
I highly
place.
recommend it. It's a nice day trip. It's not in Fairfield County, but it's definitely within driving distance of.
Yeah, it's about an hour up
Right.
Route 7, and far away from anything
It's
on
very
the coast.
remote.
It's very
and
remote.
you can do hiking. You can swim. You can splash your hands in water. You can do everything. Run, bike.
Wear tick spray.
Yes, definitely wear a tick spray. That's for sure.
Yeah. Another one that I've gotten, and it's a place that people don't think of too often. I tend to gravitate towards salt water in the summertime. And Sherwood Island State Park in Westport
That's great.
is a beautiful location that a lot of people don't even think about going to because they consider it so crowded. And that's generally the weekend. People come from all over New York City a lot.
Well, if someone wants to take a vacation day or a sick day
Yeah.
on a Wednesday, they could go, right?
Yeah, well, families with kids, it's a great place to go and just poke around in the sand. There's a great nature center there as well. And the weekday parking is $9 for Connecticut residents.
That's a good deal.
And on the weekends it's $13, which is a lot less than you would be paying.
Westport's $40.
Yeah, I was going to say if you wanted to go to one of the town beaches like
Mm-hmm.
Westport or Greenwich.
Yep.
So think about Sherwood Island State Park. It's right off the extender, which is right off of Route 1 in Westport.
Doesn't get much better than that.
Yeah.
I've got another one in Westport, Earth Place. It's not a beach, but it's a fun little organization that people can go to.
Nature Center.
Yeah, Nature Center. If you're not a beach person, because some people don't like the pool beach scene, that's
Yeah.
fine. Go
Yeah.
indoors.
Can't do
Earth Place
salt.
in Westport is a nice, fine alternative option.
Okay.
Discover a lot there, have fun, make a summer day of it.
And if it's raining, they have a nice little museum.
Exactly. So that's a beach alternative is what I would like to call it.
Okay. Well, I have one more beach alternative, and
All right,
that's
let's hear it.
the Bruce Museum in
Yes,
Greenwich.
one of your favorites.
One of my favorite museums, and having just gotten back from Paris, I'm kind
Are
of
you
excited.
museumed out or no?
No, I am not.
Oh my goodness, you're jazzed.
And their exhibit for the summer is a beautiful one. It's called Electric Paris. It's paintings that were done at the time in Paris when they first put up streetlights, first powered by gas and then by electricity. And it allowed
very cool.
artists to go out and paint night scenes. So they have some beautiful works by people like Whistler and Moorer, and I think there's some Degas, and it's a nice little show. And this is a great museum. It's not too big. You can take children to it easily. They won't get worn out by having to see too much. And there's a great science component to it as well. They have a show about electricity, which has got a lot of hands and stuff.
So that kind of ties into the whole Paris history
Kids
angle.
could go have their hair stand on end with, touching the.
I remember
forget what
doing
those
that when I
things-
was a kid.
Yeah, and they also have a nice natural history area in the museum, which kids really love. And a
Perfect.
great gift shop.
A great gift
So
shop.
on a rainy day, Bruce Museum, place to
And
go.
we might be getting some rain this weekend.
Yeah, I
We were
think
telling people to go
Sunday-
outside, but it might have been
Yeah, Saturday's going to be
conflicting.
good. Sunday's going to be maybe some rain.
And there's plenty of other recommendations on our website.
Yes, arts.hersamacorn.com.
And that concludes today's show. Thank you for watching Arts and Leisure on the HN Network. We'll be back next week. Have a great weekend, everybody. Stay safe.
So now.